In today's video, we will be looking at towns located in the Fingal Valley in northeast Tasmania. This is the towns of the Fingal Valley. There was a military barracks at Avoca in the mid to late 1820s. St. Paul's Plains Post Office opened on June 1st, 1832 and was renamed Avoca in January 1838. Avoca was proclaimed a township by January 1836, and a church was built and completed in 1841. By 1852, there was a church, a school, a post office, a police station, and 2 inns. By 1864, the population was listed as 126, and there were 2 inns, 2 shops, a blacksmith, a carpenter, 2 or 3 shoemakers, 12 inhabited houses, and 30 children attending the school. In 1877, there was a telegraph station, the Union Hotel, 46 houses, and 140 inhabitants. There was also 2 churches, a school, and a recreation ground. A railway line opened in June 1886. The population had reached 183 by 1901, and a hall opened in 1907. By World War One, the population was at 213. Payable gold was discovered at Mangana in the early 1850s, which was the first payable gold discovered in Tasmania. 240 Crown Land town allotments were offered for sale in November 1859. By 1860, 60 buildings had been constructed. 164 Crown Land town allotments were sold between 1858 and 1861. Mangana was proclaimed a township on July 3, 1866. The 1861 census recorded 74 people living at Mangana. Between 1865 and 1873, 16 Crown Land town allotments were sold, and Mangana Post Office opened sometime between 1866 and 1875. A Catholic church opened in 1869. By May 1870, there were about 200 men working in the area. This prompted the Mercury to claim that Mangana was the most thriving town in Tasmania. In April 1876, almost 200 town allotments were offered for sale, and 6 were sold in 1878. By 1877, Mangana had 2 hotels, 2 churches, and a school. The township began to decline by July 1881, and an Anglican church opened in 1888. The 1891 census recorded a population of 226 living in 43 dwellings. By 1900, there was a post office, a bank, a post and telegraph station, a school, 2 churches, a hall, and 3 hotels. The 1901 census recorded 243 people living in 50 dwellings at Mangana, and only 6 men were employed with gold mining by January 1907. Mangana's population had fallen to 204 by World War One. A flood in April 1929 resulted in 16 families becoming homeless in the upper part of Mangana. Alexandra was proclaimed on July 3, 1866, and 48 Crown Land town allotments were offered for sale in the same year. The area was a gold mining town by 1877. 2 Crown Land town allotments were sold in 1903, and land was still being advertised in the town as late as April 1947. The Welland was also known as Stony Creek, and began to form from the late 1820s. Llewellyn was gazetted as a township in January 1836. 23 Crown Land town allotments were offered for sale in 1841, and a hotel was operating by May 1873. Between 1873 and 1880, 6 Crown Land town allotments were sold. By August 1882, there was a hotel, a police station, a school, and a store. Llewellyn Post Office opened in 1883. 3 Crown Land town allotments were sold in 1889, and 2 more were sold in 1896. A railway station opened around 1916. The population was recorded as 14 during World War One. Llewellyn suffered enormous damage during a disastrous flood in April 1929. The Llewellyn Post Office closed in 1967 and the railway station closed around 1970. There was a military barracks at Fingal by October 1831, and Fingal Post Office opened on June 1st, 1832. By 1852, there was a police magistrate, a post station, and 2 inns. There were also 877 people living in the district in 134 houses. By 1864, there was a church, a public school, a house of correction, 3 inns, 2 blacksmiths, a wheelwright, a tailor, 2 or 3 shoemakers, a tannery, and about 25 houses. Fingal was proclaimed as a township on July 3rd, 1866. The church opened in September 1869. By 1877, there was a postal, telegraphic, and money order office, 2 breweries, an oak crusher, 2 churches, a bank, 2 hotels, and a small recreation ground. A railway station opened in June 1886, and the 1891 census recorded a population of 425. By 1901, the population had fallen to 372, and it was listed at 416 during World War One. Coal deposits were discovered in the Mount Nicholas area in the 1840s. In August 1889, the population of the area around the Mount Nicholas and Cornwall mines was numbered around 250. Mount Nicholas Post Office opened in 1892. By around 1894, there was a store, a school, and a recreation ground. In 1895, the Mount Nicholas mine employed around 50 miners, and by 1896, the population had reached 94. The 1901 census listed 91 people living at Mount Nicholas. By World War One, the population of the Mount Nicholas and Cornwall area was 155. The Mount Nicholas mine was purchased by the Cornwall Coal Company in 1937. The Mount Nicholas mine closed in 1958. Cullinswood Post Office opened in 1849. Cullinswood once comprised of 2 churches, a hotel, a blacksmith shop, a post office, and a school. Cullinswood Post Office closed in 1869 and reopened in 1894. The population was listed as 83 during World War One, and Cullinswood Post Office finally closed in 1965. By July 1886, there were over 100 miners employed in the Cornwall mine. Cornwall Post Office opened in September 1890. The 1891 census recorded a population of 185 at Cornwall. The population had reached 200 by 1901. Cornwall was proclaimed on February 26, 1907. The population was at 234 during World War One, and Cornwall Post Office closed in July 1986. St. Patrick's Head Post Office opened on June 1st, 1835, and was renamed St. Mary's in 1869. A Wesleyan Methodist church opened in February 1884, and a railway station opened in 1886. A Holy Trinity Anglican church was built in 1896, and a Catholic church opened in November 1899. A community hall had opened by March 1932. Bushfires ravaged the settlement of Grey in 1898, and a Methodist church opened in 1899. Tenders for a state school to be built at Grey were accepted in October 1900 and was completed by June 1901. Grey Post Office opened in June 1901. Seams of coal were discovered at Grey in October 1903. An Anglican church was established in 1904, and a bushfire destroyed many buildings at Grey in February 1934. Grey Post Office closed in June 1967. Thanks for watching today's video. Like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this.